She walked into Meridian Capital's towering headquarters in San Francisco, her pale cotton blouse mistaken for a janitor's rags. The panel sneered. "Oh, you're here for the interview?" one of them said, stifling laughter. They called her a fraud, tossed aside her resume, and told her to fetch coffee. But Serena Langford, age 42, stood still. They say greatness arrives loud with polished heels, expensive watches, a resume thick as gold. But that morning it came quietly. Serena Langford stepped into Meridian Capital's marble-clad tower without ceremony. No personal assistant, no designer handbag, just a soft cotton blouse ivory, clean, unfussy, and a canvas tote that had seen cities, boardrooms, and battlefields of bias. No one turned to look, not at first. The security scanner blinked green. She walked past it, like a ghost among giants. The front desk assistant, a young woman with pearl earrings and a practiced smile, barely raised her eyes. "Interview applicants," she said, pausing at Serena's outfit, "use the side entrance." A glance not unkind, just trained to calculate worth by appearance. Serena nodded once. No protest. She had learned long ago. The loudest truths are whispered, not shouted. The hallway to the interview wing smelled of new paint and ambition. Suits brushed past her like gusts of wind, too preoccupied with their reflections to see what stood still. In the glass wall's reflection, Serena caught her own silhouette, unassuming, unthreatening, but her eyes, hazel and steady, held a clarity that had once convinced global banks to shift strategies and governments to rewrite compliance laws. They didn't know that, not yet. Outside the conference room, the other candidates waited, young, tailored, sharp-tongued. She didn't expect warmth, but even frost has its rules. This was something else. A woman in a scarlet skirt laughed. "Cute bag," she said, nodding at Serena's tote. "Does it come with coupons?" Another, all cufflinks and cologne, chuckled. "Hope she brought a mop for the interview." Phones rose like weapons. A snap. A video. Laughter, the kind that sounds like nails tapping on glass. Polite in volume, cruel in frequency. Serena's hands never left her sides. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She simply stood, not because she was proud, but because she remembered something her mother once whispered while folding laundry late into the night. "You don't have to wear armor to be unbreakable. You just have to know who you are." And Serena Langford, age 42, knew exactly who she was. Meridian Capital didn't whisper success. It roared from every polished surface and corner office that overlooked San Francisco Bay like a king surveying his kingdom. Its lobby was a vault of power, chrome, stone, and silence. A chandelier hand, blown Murano glass, spun light over investors with seven-figure ties and interns too afraid to breathe too loudly. At Meridian, status wasn't earned, it was displayed. Appearance was policy, image was power. This wasn't a company. It was a curated mythology, one built from Wall Street pedigree and West Coast polish, where resumes were scanned as much for alma maters as for logos in the email signature. Behind a glass door marked Interview Suite A, the firm's culture sat waiting, not in words, in glances, in watch brands, in the way someone might lower their voice when they say state school, as if it were contagious. And still, Serena Langford stood in the waiting area, shoulders squared, hands folded over her tote. Her blouse was wrinkled only at the elbow crease. Her trousers were cream. Her shoes were flat, quiet, measured, one. At 42, she didn't try to look younger. She didn't try to look important. She didn't try at all. That's what made them uneasy. because Meridian was built for those who did everything but stop trying. And Serena had already done her proving years ago. They just didn't know it yet. The hallway wasn't long, but it stretched like judgment. A ring of applicants hovered near the frosted glass interview suite, leaning on confidence and snide remarks, none older than 30, all gleaming, smirks carved with purpose. One in a cobalt jacket whispered to another, not quietly enough, "Looks like someone wandered off from maintenance." Talia Drake, her skirt designer and her tongue sharper than a box cutter, laughed as she sipped iced coffee. "Maybe she's the HR diversity hire, for flavor." Serena looked down at her canvas tote. Inside, a black notebook, a blue pen, and a worn copy of Principles of Global Finance, the same copy she'd used to negotiate a multi-billion-dollar restructuring deal in Southeast Asia. A dollar bill fluttered to the floor. "Dry cleanings on me," said Miles Corbin, eyes glinting behind thick designer frames. A chuckle rippled through the circle. Phones filmed. One voice bored, cruel murmured, "Tag it, #budget candidate." Serena didn't move, not toward the bill, not toward the fire. She simply inhaled, once, slowly, the kind of breath one takes before they change the rules. Sweet, smelled of lacquer and lemon oil. The interview table gleamed like it knew secrets. 3 panelists sat behind it, necks stiff, smiles thinner than the pages of a contract. Howard Benton, head of HR, adjusted his tie and leaned back like the room belonged to him. Marissa Cole, vice president, didn't smile. She assessed, the kind of look meant to cut. Derek Yoon, chief operations officer, didn't look up. He flipped a pen like it owed him something. Serena stepped in. They didn't offer a greeting. Benton squinted. "Are you here for the assistant position?" Marissa smirked. "No one told you there's a dress code." "I'm here," Serena said, "for the Global Strategy Vice President interview." Benton laughed. She placed her file gently on the table. "Please review my resume. Then we can begin." He didn't even touch it. "We'll get to that." They didn't. Instead, they projected an image onto the screen behind them of a woman in a linen blouse, a red X slashed across her torso. "This is not Meridian standard," said Derek. Laughter. Quiet, calculated, poisonous. They gave her a mock test. 5 pages of nonsense numbers. A deadline of 3 minutes. They wanted her to crumble. She didn't. Her pen moved. Her hand didn't shake. The door cracked open. Miles Corbin entered, smug as a champagne cork. He wasn't early. He was expected. This entire session was his runway. A nod from Benton, a wink from Marissa. They were all in on it. Miles had donated $250,000 to Benton's offshore foundation. Everyone knew. No one said a word. "This," Marissa said loud enough for Serena to hear, "is leadership material." Serena looked at them, calm, measured. "Wandasau, I don't know of any candidate so impressive that ethics should be tossed aside," she said. "But if an envelope is all it takes to pass, then perhaps the interview's already over." The room froze. For the first time, Benton leaned forward. "Are you accusing us of bribery?" he barked. "Do you know who you're speaking to?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Yes," she said. "More importantly, I know who I am." The atmosphere in the room changed, not just cold, but cruel. Howard Benton's face flushed crimson, not from shame but rage. He grabbed Serena's completed test, glanced at it once, and tore it clean down the middle. "This is what we think of your so-called qualifications," he growled, flinging the shredded papers across the table. Marissa didn't blink. She stood, her heels clicking like a gavel, and turned to the security guard at the door. "Check her tote before she leaves." "Wouldn't be the first time someone walked out with our company pens." The guard, Phil, lumbered over, radio crackling. Eyes are already judgmental. Open the bag, ma'am. Serena didn't hesitate. She unzipped it slowly. Notebook, pen, finance book, nothing else. Phil scoffed. Suspiciously clean. Click. Miles took a photo, posted it to Slack under the channel Meridian Elites. Caption, guess janitors read too. Laughter. Outside the glass wall, the hallway of applicants watched with morbid fascination. Phones are still filming, Talia whispered. This is better than Netflix. As Serena walked toward the elevator, the whispers followed her like smoke. Bet she shops at discount bins. She's never seen a boardroom in her life. And then, wrong floor, sweetheart, Emily, a junior HR associate, called out with a smirk. Janitors use the service lift. The hallway erupted. Laughter louder, crueler, and still, Serena didn't speak. She pressed the elevator button, back straight, eyes forward. She didn't need to defend herself, because truth doesn't explain itself. It reveals. Before the elevator could close, a voice thundered across the hall. Wait. The crowd turned. The laughter died. Through the doors strode Julian Maris, CEO of Meridian. No smiles, just precision, authority in motion. He walked past the applicants, past the glass, past the stunned panelists, and stopped in front of Serena. Madam President, he said, bowing slightly. The silence cracked like a frozen river. Serena stepped forward, calmly, and she unbuttoned her coat. Pinned to her blouse gold, unmistakable was her badge. President of the Meridian Foundation, Chair of Global Ethics and Oversight. She turned to face the panel. I didn't come here for a job, she said. I came to see if the system I helped build still upholds the values it claims to stand for. She looked at Howard, then Marissa, then Derek, and the answer is no. Julian didn't waste time. Show them, he said to his assistant, Nadia, who stepped forward with a tablet. Slack messages appeared on the screen, screenshots of the private group chat. Ugliest shirt on the planet. No way she even has a LinkedIn. Send her back to wherever she came from. The hallway gasped. One by one, phones dropped. Serena placed a folder on the table. Inside, she said, you'll find proof of unauthorized donations made by Mr. Corbin, directly linked to panel members. I traced the deposits myself. I have the bank receipts. Julian opened it. His expression didn't change. Effective immediately, he said, each syllable like steel. Howard Benton, Marissa Cole, Derek Yoon, Miles Corbin, you're suspended indefinitely. Pending investigation. Phil, the security guard, stepped back as if the floor had turned hot. The room wasn't just quiet, it was undone. A week later, in a full press conference, Serena stood at a podium. No blazer, no designer scarf, just her same pale blouse, just her words. From this day forward, she said, Meridian will no longer accept resumes with names. No photos, no branding, no LinkedIn links. Only data, only skill. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashed. The policy swept the industry. They called it the Langford Standard. Citibank adopted it. So did Vanguard. So did UBS. At Davos, Serena spoke again, this time with CEOs who once ignored her in elevators. Bias doesn't always shout, she said. Sometimes it smiles and gives you a business card. 50 firms pledged reform that day. Back in Sausalito, Serena poured coffee with her husband, Victor, beside her. Their daughter giggled in the garden, chasing butterflies, unaware her mother had just reshaped the future. On the counter, the canvas tote sat, edges worn, stories inside. Her husband kissed her temple. Did they learn? They will, Serena whispered. On LinkedIn, the final video hit 50 million views. The footage of Benton's rage, Marissa's venom, Derek's smirk, all undone by 5 quiet words. Madam President, I apologize. Meridian renamed its largest boardroom the Langford Center. The plaque read, for the woman who reminded us that dignity is not worn, it's lived. Serena never bragged, never gloated, because those who carry real power don't scream it. They walk in, they're mocked, and they listen, and then they redefine the world.